Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Barbara Schreiner Trudell, affectionately called Rev B. Welcome to Joy with Rev B on the New Thought Media Network. Joy is my acronym for just one you. And I believe the path to joy comes from accepting our true, authentic self and living from that place. So, what I'd like to do to begin today is to start with the land acknowledgement. And so I acknowledge that the land I'm meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. I'm grateful to be able to live and work and play here. So I seek to always uncover the truth and to ensure that Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing continue. So today I honor all people, all Indigenous and Métis people across Turtle Island, for I know that we are one. So the Joy Show reflects the power of living authentically. And at CSL on the Lake, we teach the power of our thinking to create a beautiful life. So when we live authentically, we experience the grace of God, and joy is the result. So my belief is that there's one power in the universe. Call it God or spirit, call it power, universe. The name, frankly, is irrelevant because from a human perspective, we can't even begin to comprehend the infinite. However, we can have faith in it, live from it, and begin to experience grace and goodness as a result of our joy and our willingness to live in a place of authenticity and a place of peace. So I am super, super excited today. My beloved sister, Aina-Nia Ayo'dele, is a leadership coach, ancient wisdom teacher, spiritual liberation activist, and has been supporting individuals to live their highest vision and experience their life desired and deserved with peace, purpose, and power. So that's the mission that she has. And she has, for over a decade now, been running the Sacred Women International, which is a life transformational process. She also created professional development programs like Activating Your Vision, the Healing Arts for Personal and Organizational Wellness, and Caring for Self. Oh my goodness, we could go on for days here, my beloved sister. I gotta say one more thing, and that is about your last name, Ayo'dele, which means joy has come home. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. How are you, my dear?
I am so awesome. Better here to see you. I love the hair.
Mine's purple, yours is blonde. We match. We're
I,
both dressed in green.
I know. And we got some purple going on. So it's green and purple. Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun. Tell me about the work that you're doing because it is transformative. You have been doing big things. I only read part of your bio. Like, there's a bunch here. So
But
tell us.
I saw when I get that question, I often ask, I'll say, what do I answer? My sister, Reverend Barbara, I'm really on this planet to share love, to support where I can in raising consciousness. But in general, so the sacred leadership training process, which is my baby, my
Yes.
heart, that we've been running for 13 years now. We're going
Wow.
into we just finalized our group for this year, Powerful Women. And
Yes.
we do a small group, as you probably know, of women, and we take them through 10 months of deep self-exploration, grounded in spirituality and ancient spirituality, with a base, if for most of it, African spirituality, but of course, practices right across the globe.
Yes.
And women rise out of that process into the allness of who they are. Really, we say transformation, but really what we're talking about is they transform into themselves and why they came to this planet, right? So that's
Yes.
my baby, and I do many other things, as you know. So I do, mostly equity, coaching for executives. So a lot of leadership coaching. Most of my work, if not all, is around leadership development.
Beautiful. Well, I love that. And I was noticing in here that you were named one of the 100 most accomplished Black Canadian women. Hello. Hello. I'm here with a goddess for sure.
We only mirror each other, my love.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's an incredible accomplishment. And also, in 2008, you were nominated as one of Toronto's most inspiring women.
Mm-hmm.
I know this to be true. The time I've spent with you, it's been phenomenal. So tell me more about the equity work that you're doing, because that's such a big thing right now, to begin to shift how we look at each other and treat each other and how we show up, whether in business or whatever we're doing, right?
The equity work that I do, I base as I do with all things. It's based in spirit. It's
Yes.
based in spirit. So I start all of my work off with an understanding of who we are on this planet at this time. Where
Yeah.
did we come from? Why are we here? What is our purpose? Are we living our purpose? Those key questions being asked in a ceremonial way. Everything that I do, while much of it is around African liberation, but we can't talk about African liberation without talking about the land that we're on.
Yes.
So I do a lot of, I start often with marrying where we are on this land. We're in Canada, certainly, on
Mhm.
Turtle Island, certainly, the land of Indigenous people, and making sure that there is a respect and honoring and relationship building with
Yeah.
the people who own this land. And of course, then we base it on who are we as humans. Because if we don't get that, if we don't get that into our embed that into our soul, all of this equity work we talk about, I don't even touch the diversity piece, to be very honest, and all of this inclusion stuff, which what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because if we don't know ourselves
Yeah.
and therefore be able to see and know each other, then we can't welcome anybody. When we talk about inclusion, we have to talk about welcoming and belonging,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so it's a different, probably another way of looking at this whole idea of equity, but that's where I come from. And I work primarily with those who are making decisions. So institutional
Beautiful.
leaders.
Well, I think that's where it has to start, right? Like, I've just noticed, like, for myself, I'm really blessed because I've had the privilege of working with a couple of Black congregations, which has helped to shape my ministry in a different way. And
Mhm.
also to have a deeper understanding of the path that we are expecting the Black people in our community, or even anyone of color really in our community, in our city, in our world, to live with. And it's been fascinating to me as I've learned things that I was ignorant about. But I'm really grateful for the people around me who said, "Hey, Rev, you can't say that," or "Do you really think that was such a good thing to say?" And then I can stop and go, okay, okay, now I know something new and I can learn from that. But not everyone has that ability. And as white people, given the privilege that we have, there's so many who are not willing to give up any bit of that, or what they think they have to give up. But I think there's nothing to give up. I think collaboration, cooperation, community building actually enhances all life everywhere for all of us.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I agree, if I don't know me, how could I possibly know you?
Mhm. And it's a sacrificing of, so for me, when we talk about giving up, it's a
Mm.
sacrificing of what we knew. For
Yes,
for white folks, just being white gives you privilege, right?
exactly.
For,
Yeah.
so for white folks, the work is about the unlearning,
Yes.
is accepting. I say to people, please don't do guilt, because guilt
No.
is not going to help any of us, right? It's not. It vibrates way too low and it's not going to help any of us.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
to a place of acceptance accepting the line that which we come from, accepting the privilege, accepting our history,
Mhm.
then we can say, okay, how do I become an ally?
Yes.
How do I become an ally? What does that take? And you have to ask the folks you're doing allyship with what that means and what is required.
Yeah.
What is required of you. And so I feel it's a sacrificing of the
Mhm.
old thinking. It's an accepting of the thinking and then a sacrificing of that. It's like almost like an offering, you know
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
like that.
it's an offering. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, because as I look at all the things that we need to learn, I remember staying in a hotel a couple of months back. And, with COVID, of course, they're keeping pens separated and, all kinds of practices to make sure we're safe. But I was appalled to see that on the counter, there was a white container and a black container. And the white container was for the clean pens and the black container for the dirty pens. And I thought it seems like a little thing, but it isn't. It isn't. And I was appalled when I put my dirty pen in the black container. I went, oh my God, nobody told me to put it in there. Nobody suggested to me that these are the clean ones and these, but there's this systemic thing that just happens. And so I was appalled that a public venue like a hotel
Hmm.
wouldn't have the understanding to do this differently. Like, it was shocking to me. And as I work to be an ally, I'm finding that I'm hitting walls where it's like, the police department don't care, the the mayor's office doesn't care, TTC doesn't care. Like, nobody wants to actually step up and do something. And for me, that's really disturbing, because here we are trying to create a world that will work for all of us. And then we're creating separation and division. And it's heartbreaking, actually.
Baldwin says right behind me that nothing can be changed unless it's faced. We have to face it. We have to
Yes.
face, that's why I talk about that acceptance,
Yeah.
because we have to face the truth. So when you say this authority, so-called authority, and that
Mhm.
they won't do anything,
Yeah.
they don't want to face it.
That's
So
right.
there's a lot of there's a lot of window dressing that
Yeah.
happens, and
There
there's a lot
is.
of nice ways that it's talked about.
Yeah.
EDI is the hot thing. You right, and it's so sexy. you
Yeah.
but what does that mean?
Yeah.
How do you operationalize that in your organization, in your
Yeah.
institution, in your family, in your community, at your dinner table?
Yes. Yes.
Right? And when you talk about the pen, you're talking about embeddedness, right?
Yes.
Things that are embedded, and all of us, I say, the racism, the anti-racism, the anti-indigenous racism, it didn't just affect those who are Black, indigenous, of color. It affects
All
all
of
of
us.
us. We're all in that thought.
Yes, we are.
So of course we would see a white thing and a Black thing and say the dirty one goes in the Black thing, because
It's a
we
condition.
believe it's conditioned in our mind that all things Black are dirty.
Yeah.
So
Like,
the unlearning is real.
the underlearning is, I'm grateful that I've been around so many people who are willing to tell me, when I've done something wrong, or when I've stepped over a boundary, or, shared with me their journey so I can begin to see how I can be an ally. But I have to look at my own racism. I have to be willing to accept I'm born in a white city to white parents, lived in a white neighborhood. I never knew a Black person till I was 20.
Right.
So it's like, where was my racism? Well, it wasn't obvious to Blacks or Asian. Where it was obvious was to Indigenous, because
Mm.
that's who we had, that we could point and go, oh, look at them. right? And I remember my dad saying to me, "Oh, drunken Indians." And, I didn't know. I'm a little kid, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even realize until I was in Northern Ontario, driving through one of the reserves, stopping for gas and to use the washroom and stuff, that I had that in me. That
Mm-hmm.
automatic, like, oh, this place will be filthy and this guy's likely drunk. That was my conditioning. And
Yeah.
as soon as that thought came to mind, I could have wept. I was so disturbed because this was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a minister. I'm teaching love and respect and kindness. And that's the thought that goes through my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat in the washroom and kind of took my moment to
Mm-hmm.
just rewire myself. And then I went back to the counter and talked to the gentleman. And as I'm talking to him, I'm going, what a beautiful human being. And I would have missed that.
Mm-hmm.
I would have missed that opportunity because of something my parents said to me when I was a small child that's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like this unlearning that has to happen. But I have an interesting something that I've been sitting with for a while that every time I bring it up, I get real mixed responses on it. But I'd be curious to hear yours. Um, Throughout North America, we're seeing, you know, different monuments being trashed or knocked down or kicked around, removed, whatever. And I disagree with that because I
Okay.
don't think taking our history and pretending it isn't there or wasn't there is the answer. What I would like to see is, in front of one of these statues, let's put the people who were harmed. Let us create an incredible statue or monument that honors uh, the indigenous people. Like if you take a look at, I was in Nova Scotia, right? And there's a big statue of some colonizer, can't remember his name, don't really care. But what I'd love to see, there's this huge giant statue of him. I'd love to see a big statue put right in front of it that honors the indigenous people that he tromped over in order to take this land. I'd like to see something that honors them, that's what we see first. And if we want to know what came before that or what hindered that, we have to go behind it to see the garbage that created that need for that transition or change. So I get really mixed emotions from people around doing this. But I think, do we really honor people by removing something and pretending it's not there? Or do we do better to show, hey, what about this? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So this is the first time I've heard this thought. And I can see that. I can see that. But Barbara, it's a little bit more than that. The
Mhm.
destruction, the destroying, there's a symbolism that happens in the destroying of the statue
True.
for me.
Yeah.
There's a symbolism that happens because it won't change. Like changing the name of a street, bringing down the statue, that won't. We're not looking for a big change. But
Mhm.
what it does is say no more.
No more. Okay, good. Okay,
It
thank you.
brings it down and says
Yeah.
no more.
No.
You and I, when we're teaching folks, right? We
Yeah.
we have the exercises that we do to say no more, to to to,
Stop.
to stop, to destroy. We burn a thing.
Yeah.
We burn a belief system. We have our students write things and we burn things, right? It's
Yep.
the, it's,
Yep.
it's the symbolism of that and what it also brings up emotionally for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cleansing that happens. So I feel that
Mm,
there is,
okay.
it is the, for me, this is,
Yeah.
we've done a lot of work on changing the industries and doing and destroy. But,
Yeah.
and I'm sure others have different thoughts. But for me, there's a symbolism that happens.
In
You
the
know, tell
destruction.
you a quick story. So my father
Yeah.
was an activist,
Mhm.
transition, and and a lot of his work was in the Caribbean and certainly in North America, but in the Caribbean. And there was a statue. There is a hero that Jamaica has, Cudgel.
Mhm.
And Cudgel, the story of Cudgel is there's some contradiction, but is a hero anyway, right? And so we
Yeah.
revere him. And there was someone made a statue of Cudjoe in a main area in Jamaica. And my father did everything in his power to bring that statue down, because when you look at the statue, it doesn't look like a black figure. It doesn't have a black figure. It was made with the image of a white person. Yeah, good intention, I'm sure. Good intention. But I remember asking my father why
Mm,
he was spending, he made it was a lot of energy that he put in making sure that that came down. And
yeah,
he said, we can never continue the colonizer's way. We can never do anything.
exactly.
So we can't even create, say, let's put up something to honor our ancestors, right? But
Yeah,
then we make it into the image of the white folks, because that goes back to even the way our people had to hide our spiritual practices
right. Yes.
behind the Catholic faith and the Catholic practices. And
Yeah,
so we
yeah,
see the image of Yemiya looking like the Virgin Mary. So I remember my father explaining all of this to me.
yeah.
And so it's the same thing. We don't need to do that anymore.
No, we don't.
So he brought it down. And I would say, similarly to your thought about then putting it
Mhm.
in front of, no, we need to destroy it.
Yeah.
And if
And
we
then
put up our own, to put up the truth, the
put up
historical
the
truth,
truth. Yes.
of
Yes.
indigenous folks, or black folks, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just thought, as I think about, because I'm still turning
Yeah.
my
No,
mind
I love
your
this.
thought, I remember that story with my father.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting because whenever I see an image of Jesus, I just kind of chuckle because he looks like a white man. But the truth is, he was a Middle Eastern Jew. He wouldn't have looked like that. And yet in North America, and probably more places than that, but of course I know here. And it's like making this look like this white guy. Um,
But no,
Yeah,
but
there's something about that needs to really shift and change, but I love that. Thank you for really helping me to clarify that because I'm looking at, you can't just knock something down and pretend it never happened. And that was where I was going, but I
yes,
love the idea of let's destroy it, but I'd love in the place of it to bring something that mirrors truth.
yes, yes,
That would be beautiful. That
yes,
would be lovely.
yes. Let's yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, 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 wow.
But I feel though that when I saw something like what happened in Buffalo, um,
In
I said,
Texas.
wow. And I remember immediately thinking, here we go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go again. 400 years later, here we go again.
Mhm.
And then I have to also remind myself that there is still changes happening.
Yes.
But we have to celebrate the change and
Yes.
continue the work for true liberation,
I agree.
true shifting, right? But we as we do that, we have to always still remember that there is change that is happening, and let's celebrate the change, and let's continue the work and continue the vigilance. And in the meantime, make sure we're taking care of ourselves and do some joy.
And do some joy. Absolutely. We need some joy. Yeah, joy is so, so important in all of this. I remember a story years ago. A woman that I knew was a nurse in Edmonton, Alberta, and she went to work in a Rwandan refugee camp. And she went there for a month to help out, with nursing skills. And she talked about two things that really touched my heart. One was there were a lot of little babies that were dying of AIDS, whose families who knew where they were. And she would tie them. She was a substantial woman, and she would tie these babies to her chest, knowing that sometimes they only had a few hours left. But if they're going to die, they're going to die with her heartbeat. And I thought, wow, that's a remarkable kindness, actually, to do that.
Wow.
But
Oh,
the other thing she said that really surprised me was she said, as hellish as this is, and she said it really is, it smells bad, it feels bad, it's like there's not enough water, food, whatever. And she said everybody's been separated from their loved ones. But she said at the end of every day, the women would dance. The women would dance. And I went, oh my God, in the most horrific condition, humanity stands up and said, yes, and I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm going to have that bit of joy that that is so essential to our well-being. And I love that. That story has stayed with me for so many years because it was such a beautiful, beautiful image of these women dancing. Now
yeah,
we're gonna take,
revolution.
yes, exactly. Well, we're going to take a commercial break. And so you're watching The Joy Show with Rev B, my guest, Aina-Nia, and we will be back in just a moment. We're on the New Thought Broadcast Network. Back quick.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Well, welcome back. I'm here with my dear sister, Aina-Nia, and we have been talking about all kinds of things to do with equity and race relations and a world that's ready for major transformations.
I don't know what for,
It's a beautiful thing to be able to share honestly about the things that can divide us and to have conversations that actually tend to bring us together more than separate. I think it's that, pretending or hiding or making excuses that causes a bigger separation. We sort of dismiss our oneness or our own unique nature, right? Because each one of us is created unique and special. So we just have to find our own specialness, and then I think we can love others so much easier.
that is, I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you do remember that song, that Ricky Byers song that said, "I love myself so much that I can love you so much."
I love myself so much that I could love you so much, that you could love you so much, you could start loving me.
Love that song. I love that song.
It's such a great message.
That's the essence. That's the essence.
That's it. That's all we need to figure out. Who
That's
am I? And then I can love you, right? If I'm okay with me, I'll be okay with you. I'm not going to be projecting, right?
yeah, yeah.
So that's fabulous. So what's coming up for you? What new things have you got going on, or what's next in your world?
Wow. So as you know, I am complete with the work that I was doing at City of Toronto. Got
Mhm.
went in, did some stuff and
Yeah,
created structure, disrupted some things.
that's perfect.
And now moving back into the public work, the care of a larger group. And so I've put my sacred leaders training. I actually created a mini version, a condensed version, and I've put it online so folks who either can't get into the SLT plus program, which is the 10-month program, or unable for any whatever reason, or is somewhere far, that they can go on and take that program. So it's online, it's self-directed, they get to talk to me twice throughout whatever period they're doing, and then they become part of the Sacred Women's community, because we meet once a month anyway, and they get to meet with other leaders. And these are for women, of course, women only, women identified, people only. And so they get to be part of the community. And so we continue to just build the community. And we're getting, it's interesting because we're getting a lot of women from the East, from Africa and from India, who want to be part of the community. And so this gives us a way to be able to serve them as well. We have been serving folks in Ghana for a while, and Jamaica in different parts, but now we get to serve a larger group of people through this portal.
Wow.
And so that's a big thing. I love that.
How do people access that information? Like
Online
anybody?
on our website, on Aina-Nia.com website, under courses, they will see the SLT self-directed as well as the SLT plus, which we're complete for this season. And then all the work that that I continue to do with institutions and individuals who want to look at a different way of leadership. And folks know, once you come into my space, into my world, I am going to go to spirituality. That's the base of all that I am, because I feel that if we can connect with our spirits, and if we know that's it, everything from me, my sister, starts there. And then everything is up from there. If you want to change politics, understand spirituality. We must be able to align both the sacred world and the spiritual world,
I
so
agree.
things happen quicker. So and I'm doing a retreat in Jamaica in August for leaders. We'll do another one. I'm just mentioning it because we're going to do another one, because that one is filled. And this was a spirit that asked me to bring a small group of women who have gone through this last 3 years of serving in this way together, so that they can have some renewal and rejuvenation and so on. I believe that we're full, but certainly folks can go, and we will be doing a lot more of those retreats and bringing folks together, so that we can heal and have joy together. Honestly, it's about joy. Everything starts. You don't know how I love the name of this show. I love it so much.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, it's been my focus for quite a long time to help people to understand that normal doesn't exist. That is a fabricated thing that allows us to live in mediocrity. And what really does exist is that each and every one of us is a unique spiritual being, created perfect, whole, and complete, like everybody else. So it doesn't matter if you're the president, if you're a reverend, if you're a doctor, if you're, a person living on the street, you all have the same value. You all have the same worth. You all have the same we are able, like when we can begin to accept ourselves as okay, we begin to create something different in our world, which is
Mhm.
really, really beautiful.
And see the value in everybody else. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Reverend Barbara, there's when we get there. So when I think about, I travel a lot. So I'm, traveling in the Caribbean, and we see someone on the street, um, or a panhandler, or
Mhm.
whatever the situation is,
Yeah.
to see that person as valuable.
Mhm.
Often we go to the place of, and this is something I'm learning through my journey, right?
Mhm.
Often go to the place of, oh my goodness, oh poor them, oh my goodness, I've got to help them. Oh, well, you know what? This is their journey. This is
Exactly.
their journey, and they probably
Mhm.
have a thing or two to teach me.
Guaranteed.
When I was in the last time I was in Jamaica, we were in one of the rural parishes, and I saw this man, beautiful man, and he was climbing the coconut tree, and I realized he was stealing the coconuts. It was clear, right? He was stealing the coconuts, not his land. It's not his place. He was taking the coconut. And
Yeah.
so I said hi to him, and I said, so what are those coconuts going for? Because I know he was about to sell them, right?
Yeah.
And so he said, so he said to me, well, I know you might think I'm stealing the coconut, but the earth belongs to all of us. And therefore, this coconut belongs to me too. And he gave me this whole spiel. Then he sat with me. So we sat together and we had this amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And he was living on the streets. And he said he chose to live on the streets
Yeah.
because where he was, he didn't feel safe. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so we had this whole conversation about safety. And
Yeah.
in that, we talked for about a half an hour as he opened up a coconut and fed me.
Nice.
And of course, I gifted him. But we had an amazing conversation, me and that young man. Learned about his children, learned about his journey, and learned about what he has learned. And
Yeah.
in that moment, I remembered something I'd read a long time ago about putting our eyes on folks always in that divinity. Namaste.
Namaste.
I am because of you.
Yes.
To see the divinity of all people. And so for me, and again, I'm on the journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Remove myself from this place of, oh my goodness, oh, and the victim, and oh, and so to this is their journey.
Mhm.
What do I have to learn?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I
And
love that.
that's the walk, I think,
I agree.
That's the walk. That's part of the walk anyway.
Yeah.
And one that I'm on for sure.
Well, I know for myself as well. I remember years ago when I would, see people on the street, and there was that, oh, poor them. And I, got out of that mode of sympathy, realizing it's not helpful. It's me looking at somebody as broken. And that's, I mean, that's in my mind, that's one of the most hateful things I could do, is to view another human being as broken and flawed.
Yeah.
So it's seeing that divinity. And I think, when we look back over life itself and the things that we've done, everything in the world is done by people just like me and just like you, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the truth. And so when I can sit back and instead of judging, which sometimes is difficult,
Yeah. Very.
you look at what happened in Buffalo, you look at what happened in Texas, you look at what's going on in Ukraine. And yeah, we can point fingers and we can put labels and we can decide, but we actually don't know anything. And
That's so true.
true, right? We
That
don't.
is so true.
Yeah. I mean, I can't know what's in your head, right? Why you decide to do one thing rather than another, unless I sit down and have a really good conversation with you. There's no way I'm going to know. I'm guessing. And one of the things I found a while ago, I don't know if you've heard of this, is the human library. Do you know the human library?
Why is that familiar to me?
I found out about it online. I was just opening up my email one day and it showed up. The human library is when two people sit across from one another, and one person tells their story without interruption. They just tell their story, and the other person receives it. And it's kind of like if you were in the library reading a book, the author wouldn't be chatting with you. The character in the book wouldn't be going, yeah, but it's like you read it and that's it, right? Here's the information. So I've had the ability to have some of these things happen in groups that I've been in. Oh man, it is so cool. It's the best thing on earth. You find out things about people you had no idea about. It's so rich.
In
And
our
it's
tradition, we call it the ash ceremony.
the ash ceremony.
Yeah, we do the ash ceremony. So that's exactly it, right? It's the
Oh, I love
story without interruption,
Yeah.
right? And there's a whole ritual about it. I'm simplifying it, but there's a whole ritual about that.
I want to do that with you.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. When we get together, I want to do that.
We're having lunch soon. Let's
We
have lunch
are.
and let's do that. Let's eat first and then
Let's do it. Oh, I love that. I love that because I've found with the people that I've just been listening to their stories, I'm in awe of the people who I'm surrounded by that I had no idea. Right? One of my friends is from South Africa, and talked about her journey of discovering and learning science of mind. Now she's a woman close to my age. When she was in her like 20s in South Africa, she was learning science of mind. And Og Mandino came in as one of the presenters at one point in time. I don't know if you've read Og Mandino's work, but it's one of my favorite authors ever.
Yeah.
And she met him when she was like 20 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like,
I wish I'd met him when I was 20.
yeah.
Oh, you this book.
I know. Like his books are phenomenal. And another woman that was also in that group where we had this, she talked about hitchhiking. This is a white woman who's now in her 70s, but at the time, and she was like in her late teens and early 20s, she hitchhiked across Africa. Backpack and a thumb.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, are you ever an interesting person?
Wow.
Like you hear stories because we look sometimes at people who are older and we go, oh, well, glad I'm not them. Or, like we got these weird things. I don't want to be that old, or I don't want to be infirm, or whatever the case may be. But if we take a moment to sit and listen to the stories, all of a sudden we realize that, man, I want to have more conversations, especially with people my age and older, because a life has been lived.
Yeah.
And
then it helps us to be present.
Yes, it does.
To just be present to that moment and having that conversation, just
nothing
else going on, because there's so much going on. Nothing else going on.
Yeah.
That just being present, just me and you right now having this conversation.
Yeah, I know, it's beautiful.
But
well, it's such a joy to sit back and just sort of take things to a deeper level, right? Like I don't have to know everything. In fact, the odds of me knowing everything are pretty slim. But what I know, I'm willing to share. But what I want to do is learn from others, right? To discover what they know and how they feel about things. And so often we just make assumptions, right? You know what we say about assumptions? But it's true, right? Like it's time to reevaluate how we do life. And I'm really attached to a bunch of C words like community, collaboration, cooperation. Those are, communication. Those are words to me that really matter right now.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of competition has to be set aside.
Yeah.
Because it's not serving us.
The root word for communication, for community, is communication.
Yeah.
Right. So we just have to start it. I was just listening to you and thinking, yeah, when I do, as I said earlier, my equity work starts there. It's about getting to know each other
Yes.
and
Yeah.
really being able to share, where did I come, where are my people from? Tell me some stories about you. Tell me some stories about
Mhm.
your people. Because the truth of the matter is, there probably is not that much difference between me and you.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
There's not that much difference between you and
Yeah.
me, even in the lack of privilege or privilege.
Yeah. Yeah.
There probably are some things that we can see that we have in common.
Guaranteed. Yeah, guaranteed. And some, I think too, that as we learn each other's stories, we can begin to have compassion
Mhm,
for each other,
mhm.
knowing that, yeah, I've had this hard experience, but this person's had this hard experience. And yeah, those experiences are different, but the trauma on the individual, on our psyche, is the same. It's like, trauma is trauma. And what traumatizes me might be different than what traumatizes you, but the trauma's there. And how do I heal that? And that's about really, I think, coming to terms with who I am.
Mm.
And I just did I just did a TikTok. I decided TikTok's the thing to do.
Oh, really? I haven't gotten there yet. You're so much braver than me.
It's so funny. I just started. Anyway, I put one up yesterday and it was like, I don't care what they told you. I'm telling you, you are unique and special.
Oh,
Don't forget it.
oh, I love it. Is that what the TikTok is? Just
Mhm.
bite-sized messages? Oh
Just
my
little
goodness,
tiny,
I
like
love
you can
it.
take clips out of stuff you've already created, or just
I love
yesterday.
it.
Yeah, I
I
just
love it.
created that one. I've got a few up, but that's the one I did yesterday that
I love
it,
it.
yeah,
And
it's,
that's so much fun. I just wanna do things that's fun. You
yeah,
know?
and TikTok is all about that,
I
right?
love it. So do you do a face thing? Is that what happens? You do a face thing and okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, you can get on there and go, "Hey, just gonna go have lunch now." I mean, that's probably what a lot of them are, but they have a whole set of spiritual ones and different speakers from around the world who've just taken clips, because I think it's a maximum of 5 minutes on any of these. Most of the ones I've put up are a minute or less, right?
Ah,
They're quick. They're quick, quick,
now
quick.
you're gonna get me looking at this. My children are gonna be so happy. Both my son and my daughter are my communication and marketing people. I'm a
Oh,
really bad client for them because they want me to do all these things, and I keep saying, no, no. But I have ventured into some stuff. So if I ever tell them I'm
yeah.
gonna do TikTok, they would be on top of the world.
Well, take a look at mine is CSL on the lake, right? It's
Okay,
not, yeah,
okay.
CSL on the lake.
I'll
Um,
try that now.
take a look. I only have 4 or 5 up now. I just started this week.
I love
But,
it. I
you
love
know,
it.
yeah, and it's what I realized is I've created all sorts of content, and all I have to do is, like, even from this show, I can take one little piece out of it and post that, and, it doesn't, it takes me a couple of minutes to edit it in iMovie, that's all.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
We need more of that though.
yeah,
We need when there is
yes.
so much chaos. And I think
Mhm.
we're in a time of eruption, which is not a bad thing. But there's
Yeah,
so much of that happening that we've got to fill our souls with, you're important. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, having somebody say to you, "You know what? Just the way you are, with every mistake you've ever made,
Hmm?
you are perfect, whole, and complete. Just the way you are. I choose to love you just the way you are."
Do you remember the first time that somebody said that to you? Because I remember. Yeah.
I remember being in grade 10 and having excruciatingly low self-esteem. And my teacher, my social studies teacher, Carolyn Baxter, she saw me and
Hmm.
she believed in me.
Hmm.
And it was so strange because I didn't see myself that way. I didn't see myself as valuable or worthwhile or anything. And later on, years later, because she was quite young, she she was teaching at a really young age, but she became a good friend of mine years later and died actually just before Pierre and I got married. But she was a life changer for me
Yeah.
and for many teenagers. Actually, she taught high school for years and
Mhm.
speaking gigs and stuff like that. But she was the first person who actually saw me. And
Mhm.
even with all my bad habits and mouthiness and whatever else I was doing as a teenager, she saw through all of that and just chose to accept me as I was.
Mhm.
And that had never happened before.
It's a life changing. It's
Yeah.
life changing. As a teenager, I had a kind of a rough teenage. My teenage years were pretty rough because I had an abusive stepfather. And I remember I had a bit of my mother, it's so funny. I was reminding my mother of this the other day, and she doesn't remember. I said, remember when you took me to see that psychotherapist? And she's like, no, I didn't. Why would I take you to see a psychotherapist? And I thought, oh my God, everything is gone from her mind. That's fine, mom. Don't, I thought, I'm not even going to remind you. It's okay. I
Yeah.
remember him saying to me, and I was about 14, 15. He said to me, you're a child of the universe. And you are as important as that star. I'll never forget that. And I kept thinking, oh my God, the star. I'm as important as the star. And I kept that in my psyche. And it probably took me through the rest of my teenage years.
Yeah.
That in my psyche. So I used to think, oh my God, that means I'm beyond the limit. I'm beyond the skies. Oh, I'd make this stuff up, right?
It's
It's
beautiful.
true, by the way, right?
It is true.
It's true. We should probably do a TikTok on that. Right? And he said, and I kept that in my soul.
Yeah.
In my soul. And the next time I got that message was when I got into, spirituality and
Yeah.
science of mind. And, that's the basic teachings, right?
It really
That's
is.
the basic teachings. Like you're just beyond, you're just powerful and you're complete. And I don't care what you look like. And I don't care what you've been through. And you're just awesome. And you're just awesome.
All of that is just distracting noise.
All that is just distracted noise.
Oh,
Illusion. So
I love that. I love that. Every now and again, I think of Queen Latifah and the fact that as a teenager, she chose to change her name to Queen. And I thought, whoa, way
right?
to go, girl. And, she's such a remarkable individual. I really, really love her work. And a friend of mine, one of my students actually, is a police officer in Brampton. And when she was here, she's been here a couple of times for TIFF, and he has served as her bodyguard. And he said, nicest person. In fact, the second time she came back, she requested him specifically. And he said, she is the nicest person.
I can see that. You feel that.
You feel it. You do.
You feel
Yeah.
it.
And she's one of the people in the world. I was so glad to hear that she's a nice person because I really, really love her. You don't want to
Oh no!
yeah, you don't want to find out that your favorite star is actually a monster.
Yeah.
You want it to be
Queen of
somebody who's lovely.
herself. Queen of herself.
Yeah. Like I
Queen of
thought,
herself. That's what
wow.
we teach the young people to do.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's why it's so important, I think, as we're working with youth, especially to keep reminding them. Like my daughter is 17 and, her friends come over to visit and stuff like that. And I want to remind all of them. One of them came over a couple of weeks ago. They had been out and I don't know where this kid got liquor from, but anyway, they did. And so Genevieve calls me up and goes, Mom, you got to come and get us because so-and-so has had too much to drink and they're vomiting. And I said, oh, great. So they arrive at the house. Now, this child does not know me yet, right? This was our first meeting. And so they come into the house and I give them a great big hug. And I said, so you're feeling a little rough? It's like, yeah. Are you going to do it again? No. I said, yeah, right. I was a teenager once. I didn't do
Oh
this
my
one time.
goodness.
I did it a few times. So I gave them a great big hug and I said, "You have a good sleep, have lots of water. Do you want an aspirin?" You know,
Grace and love. Oh my God.
praise
Grace,
and love. That's all we need.
grace and love. Grace and
Praise.
love.
Yeah,
Grace and love. Grace
that's
and
it.
love. I had a similar little thing, not the alcohol, but something else with a young person the other day. I said to my son, I said, because it was one of our younger family members, and my son was, Mr. Big Guy now, right? And I
Yeah.
said, remember, we can't throw anybody out,
Yes.
Can't
Thank
throw anybody
you.
out.
We can't throw anybody out. Oh, this has been such a joy. I can't believe this hour's up already.
This has been an hour.
It has been. I am so grateful to you, Aina-Nia, and I am just so delighted that you were here today. I'm really looking forward to our lunch. So much so. That's going to be fantastic. Thank you for being here today. And I love you. God bless you. And I will see you very, very soon.
Mm.
Namaste, my dear sister.
Namaste.
Well, in closing, I just want to remind everyone that I'll be back here again next week, and we will continue the conversations about living an authentic life and how joy becomes the experience as a result of that. When we embrace our natural talents, our own willingness and openness, when we're willing to learn about ourselves and learn about others, when we're willing to look at the things that we don't know with a willingness to learn and to discover, I think that's when the world becomes a much sweeter, safer, and joyous place. You've been watching Just One You, the Joy Show with Rev B and my beautiful guest, Aina-Nia Ayo'dele, and I am so grateful to each and every one of you. God bless you. Hope to see you Monday night at CSL on the Lake. If not, next Friday right here on Joy. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye for now.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.